Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Jessica Clemons, and this is a breakdown of Invincible Season 2, Episode 8, titled I Thought You Were Stronger. We made it to the finale of Season 2, and the events of this season have pushed Mark to the breaking point, but we continue to see that this Mark is unique amongst most Marks in the universe, and now more than ever, he's filled with resolve and purpose to be a better hero. Let's dive into this finale of all the Easter eggs, animation details, and deeper layer of meaning that you might have missed, and stick around for the end of this video where we'll get into some spoiler territory for what might be coming in Season 3, but don't worry, all those spoilers will be at the very end of this episode. We won't have any future comic book spoilers in the main portion of this video, so we're all fine. Get over it. This video is sponsored by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes launching your own website a breeze. But first, be sure to check out nerdriot.shop for the latest and greatest in new Rockstars merch. Right now, we have a whole line of merch straight from the Xavier Institute, inspired by the current X-Men 97 animated series. Picking something up from the nerdriot.shop is a great way to support the channel and show off all your favorite fandoms. Right now, I'm just wearing the new Rockstars pink crop top, and I keep wearing crop tops because it's summer, and you need to show your little tummy. Tummy out for summer out. Summer out, tummy out. Stummer out. We jump right into the action with someone in red tinted smoke ripping apart armored robots. We get this little hand slice through one of the bots, which is a classic Viltrumite move. The someone in the battle is revealed to be Nolan, and while at first we think he might be escaping the Viltrumite prison, he's actually just going through his inspection that General Krieg hinted at in the previous episode. After the robots, Nolan takes down some of the prison guards who clearly weren't given a heads up.
They didn't tell you who I was, did they?
Does Nolan actually feel bad for these guys? Probably not, but we'll see later in the mid-credits scene of this episode that man really has been thinking. General Krieg informs Nolan that he's passed inspection and now is finally fit for your execution. We cut to Earth where a man named Taylor is getting fit for a whole other reason. Though he does say the exercise is going to kill him, he tries not to barf. Also, everyone knows you don't just abruptly stop running like this. That's how you get a cramp. He's running to the tunes of Weapon of Choice by Fatboy Slim, a song maybe more famous because the music video is directed by Spike Jonze, featuring Christopher Walken dancing and flying around a hotel in downtown LA. In the background, Mark creates a small sonic boom as he comes flying in. We're picking up right from the cliffhanger last week. Just after his breakup with Amber, Mark gets a call from Angstrom Levy, who has his mom and brother held hostage. The juxtaposition of Mark racing to save his family and Taylor taking a jog is interesting and shows that you never really know what's going on in someone else's life. Maybe next time that person speeds by you in traffic, just let it go. Maybe they're trying to rescue their family from some interdimensional villain. So let it slide. Don't honk. Coexist. As Taylor the runner reassures himself, we get our Invincible title screen finally revealed in all its blue and black glory. We'll talk about this more towards the end of the breakdown, so just like put a pin in it for now. Mark rushes inside the house to confront Angstrom Levy, and we get a quick shot of the Korean wooden wedding ducks, one of which will be used later as a weapon by Debbie. Mark finds Angstrom holding Debbie by the neck, something Anissa did to Amber just last episode. Angstrom says this:
"There's a chance you could kill me before I snap her neck. I'm not sure. You could try if you like. Do you want to take that risk?"
This also echoes the threat Anissa gives Mark regarding Amber.
If you think you can cross the space between us before I tear this woman's head from her body, you're welcome to try.
Both antagonists claim that Mark isn't fast enough to stop them. Later in this episode, when Mark is working through his anger and emotional distress, he'll push himself to be faster than he's ever been. And no doubt fueled in part by his feelings of uselessness here, he's unwilling to risk the lives of the people he loves on the chance that he's fast enough. Angstrom notes that this Mark is not a risk taker. Angstrom is trying to figure out just who this Mark is compared to all the other Marks he knows from the other dimensions. Don't forget, along with a couple versions of Invincible this Angstrom has personally encountered, he is also the amalgamation of 1,000 different Angstroms. He then tries to diss Mark by saying this:
"Did you know your identity is public in almost half of the realities you exist in? So careless."
Really, that's like a 50-50 chance of his identity being public, which isn't bad. And I mean, really, how hard is it to figure out who these heroes really are? Nolan didn't even wear a mask. We knew who he was. Angstrom is angry that Mark barely remembers him calling him that guy. This was one of the biggest moments in Angstrom's many realities, for he was finally going to create his utopia. Instead, he saw his dreams destroyed and 999 different versions of himself killed. But for Mark, it was just another day fighting the Maulers. Angstrom has thought all of this out, including blocking out the GDA from hearing what's going on. We learned that in time since the accident, Angstrom has tried to get help from doctors across dimensions, but they were unable to undo the damage caused by Angstrom's machine, something he blames Mark for. We'll later learn that these same doctors also gave Angstrom some powerful enhancements so he could take on Invincible. But for now, Mark just wants to defuse the situation and keep his family safe. He offers Angstrom some help, and Sterling K. Brown just gives his incredible line read of this:
"You need help. Let me just...
I had help!
The tension grows, especially with sweet little Oliver crying in the background. Angstrom and Mark charge up to attack each other, but when Mark tries to grab Angstrom, he's sent through a portal to another dimension, and this one has talking dinosaurs. I actually think this is one of the dimensions we saw Angstrom walk through on his way back to Mark in episode 6. We will see all 3 of those dimensions Angstrom walk through in this upcoming battle, including the Walking Dead universe and this snowy mountain. This just reinforces how obsessed Angstrom was with destroying this Mark. He's been planning this for some time. We know that Angstrom's portals take you to the exact position in another dimension, so Mark is exactly where his house would be in this dino dimension. These talking dinosaurs speak English, which is just hilarious. They're voiced by Zachary Quinto, Jay Farrow, and Gray Delisle, who voice Robot, Bulletproof, and Monster Girl, respectively. And I just love the fun that they're having with their voices here. Sapiens went extinct in this reality, and they are shocked when Mark starts speaking, a reference to the original Planet of the Apes when the apes are shocked to hear Taylor, a human, speak.
Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape!
But the writers of Invincible go even farther, and we get this great reference to the unforgettable Planet of the Apes, the musical from The Simpsons. The dino says this:
I don't care if it sings. I only care how it tastes.
In the Planet of the Apes, the musical, Taylor can not only talk, but can also sing. I do appreciate the one dinosaur who doesn't want to eat Mark after he speaks because if it talks, it thinks. A compassionate vegan for sure, and I love him. Mark flies away, really blowing their reptile minds, and Angstrom pulls him back to the house. The little game of dimensional whack-a-mole will continue as Angstrom tries to weaken Mark, but unfortunately for him, it's really just pissing him off. We learn that Oliver appears to be unique to this reality. That must make this reality the only one where Nolan goes on his listless odyssey through space. Nolan would have to visit Thraxa for Oliver to exist in other universes, and he only wound up there because of his love for Mark, which made him feel guilty for almost killing him. This and many other points will drive home the fact that this reality and its version of Mark are truly unique across the multiverse. As Angstrom carelessly tosses Oliver, Debbie makes a diving catch to save him, and really, Oliver would have been just fine. He's a super baby, but she's a good mom, and she's not gonna let a baby just hit the ground. Who would? Mark is sent to a dimension where a Spider-Man type of hero who is named Agent Spider. He's voiced here by Josh Keaton, who is also the voice of the jogger at the top of the episode. He got to do the Invincible intro gag. Keaton is known for voicing Spider-Man in the Spectacular Spider-Man animated series. He had this quick cameo in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse as well. Here, Agent Spider is fighting a Doc Ock-inspired villain called Professor Octopus, or Prof Ock for short. He's got a P on his helmet that sort of resembles Galactus's headpiece, but on Prof Ock, the tentacles come out of his helmet, not the back of him, so they can't get sued. Agent Spider launches some webs at Prof Ock as Mark comes crashing in. You actually hear this great cat screech off screen after he lands on Prof Ock, and I love that Mark is initially confused by who is good and who is bad, asking if Agent Spider is trying to hurt this old man. Agent Spider's red eyes are scary, and it's hard to tell who is who. We get this incredible line from Agent Spider.
Look, I saw the portal. I know you're from another dimension. Got way too much experience with that, especially lately.
They're obviously poking fun at all the recent uses of the multiverse plot in movies, especially Spider-Verse movies, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and other Spider-Men coming through portals in Spider-Man No Way Home. But could he also be hinting that he too has been visited by Miguel O'Hara in the Spider Society? If Agent Spider shows up in Beyond the Spider-Verse, I will lose my mind. Angstrom pulls Mark back and he comes through with little webbing dangling behind him. I guess Mark wasn't down to help Agent Spider after all. Mark realizes the best way to fight Angstrom is not physically. He tries to reason with Angstrom, but inadvertently angers him when he calls out that Angstrom was trying to save Mark, which he did try to do, removing his helmet in an attempt to stop the Maulers from killing Mark. But that is the perspective of only one Angstrom. To most of the Angstroms, Invincible is always the villain. Angstrom begins to remember the night of the accident, but then other Angstrom memories come in. We see a shot of him with his son, who has a pet fox named Chainsaw. This refers to a tease made at the end of the Invincible comic book run when we meet Angstrom's son, who has the same pet, though as far as we know, in the comics, this kid doesn't share the same fate as the one in the show. We see Invincible with a cape and a black and yellow color scheme, including creepy black eyes on his costume, which, considering he just told the Agent Spider that he didn't know if he could trust him because he had red glowing eyes, probably means this Invincible is a bad guy. And he is. He grabs Angstrom's son's neck, just like everyone's been doing to people our Mark loves. We see the many awful things other Marks have done to other Angstroms. Another Invincible kills Angstrom's partner. This Invincible has his toe sticking out of his costume, which truly means he is evil. Why would Art design a suit like this? Who needs to fight with their toes out? Police Detective Angstrom watches their fellow officers die. We see another Angstrom in an apocalypse and another Angstrom in a prison waiting to be executed with the old Viltrumite hand chop. Here is a strong pile of evidence for not trusting Mark, and you may start to see the reason behind Angstrom's actions. But our Mark hasn't done any of these things yet, and when offered the opportunity to join his father in his conquest, or even just lie to the Viltrumites and say he will do their bidding, he has remained defiant, and that should count for something. These flashes are an interesting juxtaposition to what Donald Ferguson went through last week. Donald saw himself to be a hero over and over over, and those memories made him a better person. Angstrom witnesses the memories of Mark being evil over and over again and has driven him to this point. Also, these alternate universes stand in comparison with Anessa's argument that Viltrumite rule would make things better. We see the result of Mark and his dad preparing alternate Earths for the Viltrumite takeover, and every Earth looks super up. When Angstrom pulls Mark back this time, Mark whacks him with a Dragon's Breath sniper rifle from the game Fortnite. There are Invincible character skins available in the Fortnite game, so I guess that makes the Fortnite universe canon now. The Invincible social media account has even called Mark that guy from Fortnite before. Mark tries to offer his life for Debbie and Oliver, but Angstrom tricks Mark into going into the zombie dimension that really resembles the Walking Dead comics, and again, also created by Invincible creator Robert Kirkman. And I like here how the zombies say meat instead of more traditional brains. We see rundown version of Debbie and Mark's house from the zombie apocalypse, and I wonder if the Mark and Nolan of this world just left the planet entirely. This time while Mark is gone, Debbie decides to try and fight back, but she's not much of a match for Angstrom, especially while protecting Oliver. Angstrom drops the bombshell that she often joins Nolan and Mark in their conquests in other dimensions, or at least that's what Angstrom claims. We've never seen any other Debbies, so he could just be messing with her. But Debbie isn't shook and is quick to point out how extremely different her Mark is in this dimension, and that's because she raised him to be a good person. Angstrom throws her in anger, but Debbie uses her wooden duck to attack Angstrom, and you can see here that has the pink bow on it, meaning it represents her. Angstrom breaks her arm for the trouble, yet even in the severe pain she's in, she can only think about trying to calm down Oliver to keep Angstrom focused on her. Angstrom wants to make everyone else hurt and has clearly lost his way. He can't see that he has become the villain. Mark, lost in some unknown dimension, talks to some campers. Some time has passed for him at least. He's been tossed around a few dimensions and doesn't know how long he's been gone at this point. We see him fighting Neanderthals as well as battling Omnipotus, who we saw battling the Guardians of the Globe back in episode 5. Omnipotus has the power to traverse dimensions, so of course he's wondering how Invincible even got into his, and that's his power, dude. Back off. Then we get another great sneaky cameo moment where Invincible is clearly talking to DC Comics Batman, while a parody of the Batman score plays in the background.
Well, I mean, like, don't you think that's kind of lazy?
This is especially funny because there's already a parody Batman character in Invincible's universe named Darkwing who works out of Midnight City. The original Darkwing was on the Guardians of the Globe and was killed by Nolan, and Mark met his replacement, the former Night Boy, back in episode 2 of this season. It's easy to get overwhelmed by the thought of starting your own website, but starting your own website is even easier thanks to Squarespace. Squarespace is an all-in-one platform that provides you with everything you need to do and whatever you need with your website. For instance, Squarespace makes it easy to sell merch. You can design your products, then save time and money by letting Squarespace handle production, inventory, and shipping. And if you're selling any other kind of physical goods, digital goods, or even a service, Squarespace makes it easy to build your storefront and grow your business. Squarespace has a massive asset library with everything you could possibly need, whether you're building your first website or polishing up one you've already got. Squarespace makes it super easy to customize your look, update content, and add features to make your website work exactly the way you want it to. Just head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/newrockstars to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. As an exhausted Mark finishes off some goons in a Mad Max style dimension, a portal opens and Mark hesitates before flying through. Angstrom pokes his head through as if he's impatiently waiting, and Mark makes his move. He sees how Angstrom has hurt his mom, and whew, his full anger is now unleashed. Mark and Angstrom start to battle through portals, and Angstrom says this:
Why do you think I sent you across the multiverse?
This is the first time the show has used the term multiverse. So far, it's pretty much referred to these different universes as dimensions, probably because Marvel and the MCU used the term multiverse so much that they didn't want to use that term because they would probably get sued, but they finally used it here. We see Mark and Angstrom fight through a futuristic city with robot citizens in a world where everyone has these cyber implants on the side of their head, and I don't know, maybe Google Glasses really just like took off here. I won't buy them. I don't need them. They go to a wasteland where a dude is cooking some venison on the side of a mountain, and finally, this yellow-tinted post-apocalyptic desert world. These people here have tubes in their nose, kind of like the Fremen still suits from Dune. This guy is wearing a Burger Mart shirt, the fast food place where Mark used to work. Also, I love how Angstrom just yeets these two guys into a random dimension while he talks shit to Mark. That must have just like really messed those dudes up, but hopefully they went somewhere with more water. Yeah, sending Mark to all different universes was just a way for Angstrom to soften Mark up so he could be the one to kill him. He's thought of everything, and with those bodily enhancements, he's ready to do the job and kill Invincible. But he continues to threaten Mark's family, something Mark cares about more than himself. Mark has been holding back his anger and strength all season, and it comes out of him fully unleashed. This is a side of himself that Mark has feared ever since he learned the truth about his father. Unchecked anger that, when combined combined with his superhuman strength makes his anger and frustration that much more dangerous. In a way, Mark unintentionally baptizes himself in Angstrom's blood, covering himself in it completely and coming out of the battle a different person than who he was when he started it. Even the camera has a little wobbliness to it as Mark decimates Angstrom. It's as if his punches are so strong and brutal that they're shaking reality itself. When finished, Mark is immediately sickened by his actions and regrets what he has done to Angstrom. Mark says, "I thought you were stronger," which is also the title of the episode. It has double meaning because Mark thought Angstrom was stronger and could withstand a beating, but Mark also thought he himself was stronger and wouldn't give in to his anger or that side of him that he's worried is just like his father. He realizes his inability to control his rage has trapped him in another universe away from home. He tries to justify his actions to himself, but ultimately admits that he lost control and did in fact want to kill Angstrom. Stephen Yeun gives an incredible performance here, working through all of Mark's emotions. Meanwhile, in space, Nolan is getting beat up by General Krieg ahead of his execution. You can tell nobody really wants to execute Nolan. They all looked up to this guy, and as the guards walk Nolan to his cell, they pass Alan the alien, who Nolan barely remembers. But Alan is able to give Nolan a heads up via his telepathic communicator, and it's a nice callback to the setup that telepathic communicator only works between two people, so the guards can't hear him. Mark realizes there is nothing on this desolate version of Earth to help him. As he considers searching Angstrom's body for clues, a portal opens up and an older version of the Guardians from Mark's universe come through. The group includes an older Adam Eve, a thicker version of Robot, Bulletproof, Monster Girl, and two characters we don't recognize from the show. These are Kid Thor and Knockout, characters from the Invincible comic universe that were also a part of the group known as Capes Incorporated. From their perspective, Mark has been missing for 20 years and the world is now not good. Understatement of the century, I'm sure. They were able to use the time machine and multiversal travel to find Mark, but it sounds like they first went and found the version of Mark that had been living in this dimension for 20 years. When Mark considers that version of himself, Robot says,
"But you wouldn't like what you had become."
So the Guardians probably met that messed up version of Mark, were like, no thank you, and then used the time machine to come find a more sane version. Before Mark can head back to his dimension in proper time, Eve can't resist the opportunity to confess her love for Mark that she knows the past version of herself has right now. She asks Mark to tell her whether he has feelings for her or not so she can move on. It's also revealed that Rex is wearing the robot suit. Rudy is a clone of Rex, so in theory he would grow up to look like Rex. But Eve calls the person inside of the robot Rex, so I think we can assume that in this dark timeline, Rudy died at some point and Robot lives on as a suit for Rex. Rex is the one who warns Eve very scientifically about damage to the time stream, sounding more formal and not like his usual dickish self. Maybe the harshness of this reality turned Rex into a better person. Or maybe Rex and Robot combined their brains at some point. I just need to know what happened. But we'll never know, because Mark is sent back home. Debbie and Oliver are resting at the Pentagon at the GDA hospital. We sure spend a lot of time here on this show. Debbie's banged up, but there isn't a scratch on Oliver. Mark and Debbie have matching purple eye bruises on their right eyes. Mark breaks down when Debbie asks about Angstrom. Debbie asks, is it over? And she knows that means Mark killed him. It's the first time he's intentionally killed someone, and she understands how hard it is for him. Cecil tries to reassure Mark that he's not like his father, but Mark struggles with the fact that he lost control and wanted to kill Angstrom. Cecil sees it all in black and white, good guys and bad guys. That's his way of coping with it all. Think of how many people Cecil has killed or gotten killed in the name of doing the right thing. He has to believe he's doing the right thing or else he would see himself as a monster. And Cecil wants to give this coping mechanism to Mark, but Mark is looking for more than that. Rudy apologizes to Amanda for always trying to solve her transformation problems and not listening, which is all she's really wanted to hear from him. If he can be her friend first, he'll be able to help her more. She makes a PB&J with spiffy peanut butter and jelly, a play on Jif and Skippy. In the Immortal's isolated cabin, we see some trophies from his long life, his old uniform, Abe Lincoln's hat from the Immortal's time as our 16th president, the sword and coat of arms from his time as a knight, and what could be the Holy Grail, the fabled cup made popular by Indiana Jones. Now, I don't think they're trying to insinuate that the Immortal was also Jesus, but hear me out. What if the Immortal was Joseph of Arimathea? He was Jesus' uncle who supposedly took the Holy Grail to England following the crucifixion. That would then also explain how the Immortal became a medieval knight. Also, supposedly one of the quests for King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table was the search for the Holy Grail in England. Maybe the Immortal was there the whole time. That's just a working theory. I don't think he was Jesus, but he was probably Jesus' uncle. But that's not all that's in the cabin. Kate is there too. Duplicate is alive, much to the Immortal's relief. She reveals that she's Kate Zero, and you can see the number on her chest, and she's been living through the copy for some time. That would be wild, to just be sitting on that couch and then suddenly feel your copy die. She apologizes for hiding it from the Immortal, but he's just so happy to have her back. This is also how it plays out in the comics. So as of now, it looks like Rexplode, Shrinking Ray, and Duplicate all survived their encounter with the Lizard League. Then we get this insane callback to a one-off joke from way back in season 1. They even put it in the previously on because they knew we'd forget about it. Jane and Riley are entering the tomb of Qohor, where Jane's dad, an archaeologist named Brian, was trapped last season when Mark inadvertently flew too low across the desert when training with his father, creating a sandstorm that sealed the temple. Jane is voiced by Ellen Purnell from Yellow Jackets in the upcoming Fallout series, and Riley is voiced by Chloe Bennett, Quake from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. There is so much insane exposition packed into this quick scene. Jane has the same beetle tattoo on her arm that her father had on his hand, meaning this tomb of Cahor is part of some sort of family legacy with trying to resurrect Cahor. We also saw the beetle symbol on Cahor's tomb last season. We learned that Riley has strength powers inherited from her mom's side of the family. We've seen a few different ways on the show that people get their powers. It's through genes, a curse, a suit, etc. Jane finds her dad's body just as Cahor rises from the tomb, invoking Mum-Ra from the Thundercats cartoon, but we learn that curse means that Cahor has to inhabit a male host, which the women find sexist. Also, Cahor's eyes glow red, which we know means he is bad. Then bam, Mark flies by and causes another sandstorm, trapping everyone inside again. What a callback. None of this happens in the comics, so you know the writers were just having fun here. Mark is working through his emotions after everything he's gone through, especially reliving the memories of his dad. Mark recalls telling his dad,
I want to do what you do. I want to be just like you.
When he was starting out, still wearing his first uniform, and at that time, Nolan said Mark will be just like him, and that idea is now Mark's biggest fear. Mark is flying faster than ever, recalling back to his recent foes taunting him that he's not fast enough to stop them hurting people that he loves. He's almost like entering the Speed Force or a 2001 Space Odyssey. As the song Final Days by Michael Kiwanuka plays, Mark thinks about all the stress piling up on him, the threat of the Viltrumites in space and the Viltrumite inside of him. Instinctually, he goes to see Amber at Upstate, but he sees her with her friends and decides not to interfere. The GDA fixes up the house just like it was before, which Debbie clearly hates, and I think she's sick of this place after all of this, especially with the destroyed house still across the street. Even a neighbor calls it out. Cecil keeps blaming it all on a gas leak, and he's lying. The house is perfectly replicated. Even the throw pillows are exactly the same. Does Cecil just have doubles of everything? Like, if this was bought in a store, it would be out of stock by now. Does the GDA make all of this stuff? I have so many questions. Does Cecil have a warehouse full of endless throw pillows and couches that are the exact duplicates? Someone answer this for me. He even replaced the wooden ducks. All of these things that Debbie thought were special memories or one-of-a-kind items are so easily replaced. I just feel like it really has to mess with your head. Mark tells Debbie that he's not going back to school. To Mark, the most important thing in his life is that he continues to improve himself so that he can protect the planet from the Viltrumites, while constantly being in control of his powers and his emotions. College is not important to him. His situation is different, and he doesn't want to pretend to be a normal person. There's no need to have this alter ego life and do what everyone else does. College is important for some, but Mark has found a greater purpose. Debbie questions him at first, wanting her son to have a normal life, but she also hears him out. These Mark and Debbie talks are some of the best moments in the series. They keep Mark human and grounded. He opens up to Debbie and she always listens. She's able to be honest and give helpful advice. After what happened with Angstrom, Debbie knows how unique and important she is to Mark and how her healthy relationship with him keeps Mark on the side of humanity. Debbie is just keeping us all safe. Mark catches up with Eve at her bridge base. He looks at her as the wind blows her hair and their hands touch. He considers what future Eve told him, but ultimately says nothing to her. Even this development in their friendship is sad because Mark used to be able to talk to Eve about anything and she could comfort him, but now he probably feels guilty doing that knowing she's in love with him. Mark probably doesn't want to say anything like the old Eve told him to. If he says anything either way, it will change things between them, and he can't handle that right now. They sit leaning on each other physically and emotionally, observing the skyline. In our mid-credit scenes, we see Nolan awaiting his fate on the Viltrumite prison ship. Alan communicates with Nolan telepathically, telling him that they're on the same side. Nolan expresses relief when he learns that Mark is still alive, but seems to have accepted his fate to be executed, saying he feels shame and regret for what he did to the people of Earth, as well as Debbie and Mark. As Nolan regrets all of this to Alan telepathically, he has a revelation that he actually says out loud in his cell.
I think I miss my wife.
You know what? Nolan. Nolan is now, Omni-Man is the worst character in any universe. I think I miss my wife. You called her a pet. Okay. Ooh, Debbie, if you take him back, I'm gonna be so mad. I'm gonna be so mad. And that is it for season 2. But what can we expect from season 3? Well, Prime Video confirmed that the show was renewed for a 3rd season back in 2021 when they greenlit season 2. But then, when will we see season 3? No official release date has been given, but remember what Philip Schaff said in the last episode when Mark asked about the next season of Sandstorm.
Probably not for another year. Sorry, animation takes a long time.
So we probably have at least a year until season 3 is ready. Invincible showrunner and producer Simon Rasiopa recently told The Direct that the team was deep into production of season 3 and that the wait for the new season will not be the same as the wait between season 1 and 2. Considering that wait was 2.5 years, that's promising news. What will we might see in season 3? Well, this next part will contain spoilers from the comics, so turn this video off now if you don't want any of those spoilers, and I'll catch you next season. Okay, I'm getting into spoiler territory now. First, let's talk about the title card for this season. Episode by episode, we slowly revealed a blue and black Invincible title, which seems to be a reference to the blue and black suit Mark wore in the comics for around 20 issues. The suit was created by Art, the tailor, who was bored with Invincible's blue and yellow suit. But Mark goes through some pretty dark and tragic stuff in this suit, almost like when Peter Parker wore the black symbiote spider suit. In this episode, during Invincible's final battle with Angstrom, Mark is shirtless and his pants are only black and blue with no yellow. This could have been a nod to the blue suit, but I wouldn't be surprised if Art rolls out a new look for Mark next season. And if it is the blue and black suit, then that could mean that next season could get even darker for Mark. We'll likely see Oliver continue to grow up next season, eventually taking on the role of a hero known as Kid Omni-Man, working with Invincible as sort of a sidekick. We'll probably see Alan and Nolan begin their escape from the Viltrumite prison ship, maybe with the help of some familiar faces. In the comics, they escape alongside Battle Beast, a character we last saw in season 1, episode 8. He could be somewhere on that ship like right now. Once they escape, they'll probably go looking for the Space Racer, the legendary figure Nolan wrote about in his novel, The Man with the Invisible Gun. Also, let's not forget about the warning Anissa gave Mark about another Viltrumite visiting Earth in the near future. This is most likely Conquest, a very, very old Viltrumite who we got a glimpse of during the history of the Great Purge on Viltrum. In the comics, Conquest comes to Earth during Mark's blue and black suit days. And like most Viltrumites, he is a formidable challenge for Mark. It will definitely be a bloody battle. Also, I warned you about this last week, but if Mark does run into Anissa again, it could take a very, very dark turn. All this could be leading to an event in the comics known as the Viltrumite War, which we could see Mark and his allies facing off against the Viltrumites, led by the powerful warlord Thrag, leader of the Viltrumite Empire and perhaps the strongest and most formidable Viltrumite there is. We could also see the series tackle the events of the Invincible War. In the comics, Angstrom Levy survives his battle with Mark and winds up gathering a force of alternate universe Invincibles to come take on Mark in his universe. Remember that in the finale, Mark was stopped by the future Guardians before going back to check on Angstrom's body for clues, so he could in fact still be alive, leading to this event that we saw in the comics. But who knows for sure what we'll see in season 3, but hopefully we will not have to wait as long to find out. What did you guys think of this season? Let me know in the comments below if you loved it, hate it, or you just want to watch it over and over and over again. It's been such a joy breaking down the show every week with you all, and I just want to thank Brandon and Gina for writing this episode, and Brandon leading the charge for all of these breakdowns. We love Invincible. It was crazy to do a part 1 and part 2, but he and all of us over here did it, and I'm so happy you guys followed us and cherished it. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Lulu_Clemons. Follow New Rockstars, subscribe to New Rockstars for more analysis of everything you love. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.